Again, I don't speak Spanish. I am doing my best. But there was some...
Which is... down here.
Just
Could
the
be up
bars.
here, but it's not. Coming to you semi-live from the Greenville Beer Exchange, or GBX, as the cool kids call it.
That's us. We're the cool kids.
Yeah, we're the well, except for this guy. The GBX on Lawrence Street in glorious downtown Greenville, South Carolina. I'm Russ Heaps, and welcome to this episode of Big John and Five. That's where I get my good buddy on the other side of the dais here, Big John Richards, to pick a beer from one of GBX's 23 taps or hundreds of bottles and cans that are in the store up front. We sip them, we sniff them, we get bits about them. Sometimes John tells us a little bit about the brewery. Sometimes we get a little brewing lesson. And sitting with us today, between us, separating us, trying to drive a wedge right in there, is my fraternity brother of 50 plus years, E. Randall Porter, from Dayton, Ohio. And Ports, we're happy to have you with us today. Don't say anything. What do we got going on?
We're drinking a cider. I think this is cider number 2 in like 5 years.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure it's number 2. I'm not sure we've ever done a cider.
Well,
I think we have.
Here we go. Either way. This is fun. This is exciting for me because this is a new trend in cider. It's a new trend. It's not new at all. Sidra is the traditional Spanish cider. It's an unfiltered cider. It's usually a little higher in alcohol, but cider doesn't get too high in alcohol.
Aren't most ciders unfiltered? I mean, like if you get an apple cider, go to an orchard and get
If
an
you
apple
go
cider.
to an orchard and get an apple cider, it's probably going to be unfiltered.
Okay.
But that, not even that's necessarily the case anymore. Or at least they're going to be whirlpooled or some way they're trying to make it look more clear than this does. And with Sidra, it is very cloudy. It looks a lot like, cider, like real fresh pressed cider.
Right.
Because that's what it is. And it's a very natural product. It's naturally fermented. And in a lot of cases, it's not even carbonated. This is fun. I kept this on my phone here because there's a lot of information there.
And your memory isn't what it used to be.
And my memory isn't what it used to be. And there's a lot of words in Spanish. And I can read them and pronounce them, but I can't remember them. So this is Gurutzeta Sidra.
That sounds
Sounds German. Is there an umlaut in that?
Gurutzeta. Probably Gurutzeta. I probably said it Gurutzeta and made it sound German because I do speak German, but I don't speak Spanish. Their Cideria is in Astigarraga.
Of course it is.
Right? Which is the heart of the cider tradition in Spanish Basque Country, just south of the seaside town of San Sebastian on the Bay of Biscay. So there you go. That's where this stuff comes from. There's reading through what this cider actually is, and this orchard cidery has been producing cidery since the 18th century, it says. And then this...
That would be the 1700s.
Yeah.
It works.
And this, Jose Angel Goni has been running the cider house since 1979, when it was passed on to him by his father. So this is a long tradition of making cider.
Papa Gonye, whatever it is.
Again, I don't speak Spanish. I am doing my best. But there was some...
Which is down here.
Just the
Could be up
bars.
here, but it's down here. It's not.
There's some really cool stuff about the way the cider is produced. The harvest season is the same as our harvest season, late fall. And then the cider season is called the coach season. but it's spelled TXOTX. But it says right there, it's pronounced
ISSIPPI.
So during the coach season, they have these barrels that sound like they're about the size of this room. And there's a little hole in the bottom of the barrel. And if you want a cider, you grab your glass and you stand about 5 feet away. And they pull the plug out and you fill your
And
glass.
you have to catch it.
Yes.
In your glass.
There's no, they don't have a spigot?
No.
They haven't come up with that technology yet?
No.
This is natural cider. It doesn't go through metal. But it is really neat. The Sidra tradition, I mean, this is some of the the longest tradition of cider making that there is out of the Basque Country in Spain. And these ciders are fantastic. And they've started making their way over here more than they used to, and they did not used to make them over here much. And some of our cideries are starting to make Sidra styled ciders now, and this is really becoming a new trend with our cider makers to create something like this, and they're calling it farmhouse cider, or they're calling it natural cider, or various and sundry other things, or sometimes they're calling it Sidra. So if you see that, S-I-D-R-A, Sidra, what they're going back to is this kind of cider that's that very natural, unfermented, unfiltered, that's the word I want, and sometimes even uncarbonated. Noble, I think Noble did one a couple years ago that they sent out in cans. It was uncarbonated, and people wouldn't buy it because you'd walk up to the 4-pack, and you could squeeze the can, because there's no pressure from the CO2. So people are like, this beer's gone bad. No, it's a Sidra. It's not carbonated. Like, I don't want that. So that particular one, I think that was the first one I remember seeing from North America that marketed itself as a Sidra. And now a lot of people are doing it, which I think is super cool. So let's taste this.
Let's taste it.
It's got a great nose, I will say that.
Yes.
Text Miss Lily.
Come on. There's some cinnamon on that. It just smells like applesauce.
I want to mention that
No, I'm just dreaming. There's no cinnamon on the palate there at all.
that GBX is open for business. So there's a little noise and some talking, and people are walking by, and stuff is happening, and we are very excited to be a part of the vibe
Yeah,
here.
I'm excited to be here.
And John actually pulls some shifts here, so he worked his magic and got us in here to do a shoot.
Which is exciting. I like making magic.
Why? This really doesn't taste like apples, though.
I think it does.
You think it does?
It does.
John thinks everything tastes like apples, so
I like them apples. But it tastes like several different kinds of apples. Like I get the Granny, I feel like Granny Smith on the finish. It's tart on the finish.
Yeah.
And up front, it's more like that. All of it's this crisp side of things. We've got an orchard up north of here. I guess technically it's probably east of here in York, South Carolina, up near Rock Hill, called Windy Hill. They make some of my all-time favorite ciders. Maybe my favorite ever cider comes from that place. And I wandered through there this past harvest season and picked up a bag of apples and sat there for their tasted my way through their cider menu there, and it was beautiful. They grow Stamen Winesap apples on that mostly. I think they said it was like 85 or 90% Stamen Winesap. And the front end of that reminds me of those Stamen Winesap apples. It's a little tart, but very crisp, and got that apple.
So to make this, they just crush the apples and then put yeast in the apple juice, or do they do something else?
No, I think that's the extent of it. And I don't even know, I mean, in modern cider making, I'm sure you have to pitch the yeast the same way you do in beer making. I don't know as much at all, let alone as much as I do about beer making. But yeah, you crush the apples, and of course you then filter or get all the particulate matter out of it. You run it through a sieve, and then you ferment it, and that's the end of it. But the intricacies of it, I don't have that for you.
Okay. And then, in the fall in Ohio or mostly North America, you'll go to the grocery store and you'll get, half-gallon jugs of apple cider.
Yes.
That's unfermented cider. That's just basically, but it's not the same as apple juice that you would get.
Well,
So,
the apple juice you get in a jug on the shelf next to the grape juice
Right.
is as closely related to apples as the grape juice is to grapes.
okay.
But if you talk to a cider maker, he will tell you that hard cider is just being redundant, because if it's not fermented, it's not cider. If it's not fermented, it's apple juice.
Okay.
So getting
I learned something.
getting a gallon jug of cider at the grocery store is literally just getting a gallon jug of apple juice.
Okay.
But they've pasteurized it or done something, because like mead, this has sugars in it.
Right.
And you don't add sugar to create cider. You don't add sugar to create mead. You just add yeast. So like with mead, if you have a honeycomb and you get water in it, you no longer have honey, you have mead now.
Okay.
With apples, if you press them and put the juice aside, within days, it's going to start to ferment. So when you get apple juice from the store, it's been pasteurized or it's been somehow sterilized and put into this jug with wizard's magic, to keep it from fermenting.
Okay.
If you say so.
Well, that's my favorite story about Jesus. That the people that I grew up with, the Christians that I grew up with, taught me that Jesus did not create wine, he created grape juice. And that, because we were taught that drinking was evil.
Right.
And so Jesus creating wine at the wedding of Cana, he didn't create wine, he created grape juice, unfermented grape juice. And nowadays, I look at those people and I say, Jesus created grape juice that didn't ferment? 2,000 years before Charles Welch did? That's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
Anything else?
That's the end of it. That's all I got for you guys.
So damn lucky. See you next time.